Hello. In this episode, we are taking off on the first part of our lap of Tassie. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I don't like driving much, especially on windy roads. I certainly don't like getting lost, and I'm not keen on navigating somewhere I haven't been before. So, what could go wrong? Oh, and also, we won't be using the C word, camping. Nope, no tents or campervans for this trip. We start off in Hobart and drive through New Norfolk, where we first encounter a large group of motorcycle riders. Not like your stereotypical bike gang, more like the John Travolta Wild Hogs vibe. We then continue on our windy road to the beautiful Lake St Clair, but not before we tell you about a 100-metre by 3-metre wooden sculpture that you can't take pictures of, and how we came across one of those wild hogs who had come off his bike. Lake St Clair Wilderness Area National Park is spectacular. The lake is the deepest lake in the wilderness in Australia and is surrounded by walks and hikes of all levels and terrains. We share the ones we did and also where you can access the 60 great short walks of Tasmania. We did splurge a bit on our accommodation at Lake St Clair, and we tell you why we were pretty disappointed with it, and also how I ended up on top of an anthill the morning we left. We cover the next part of the journey to Strahan on the wild west coast of Tasmania. We stop on the way at one of our little favourite spots in Tassie, Nelson Falls. It is just so pretty. Then we arrive in Strahan and just love this quaint little place, which is the gateway to the Franklin Gordon River National Park. We take you on a sunset cruise to Hell's Gates, the convict settlement of Sarah Island, and the amazing Gordon River National Park just as the sun is setting. And I save a very special and interesting fact about Strahan that even Lyle didn't know to the end of the episode. So stay listening to the end to hear that, and you won't be disappointed. So please enjoy the first instalment of our Lap of Tasmania. Cheers! And welcome to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Leanne.
And I'm Lyle, and this is the travel podcast for beach-loving, wine-drinking couples over 50.
So if that sounds like you, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax and listen as we go travelling the world, one wine at a time.
Cheers.
Good morning, Lyle.
G'day, Leanne.
G'day. We are today in the podcast studio on the Sunshine Coast, and we are starting to tell you all about the Lap of Tasmania, a road trip that we did all around the wonderful state of Tasmania. See or no?
See, it's about 1,500 kilometres.
Oh, okay.
The lap.
But before we do that, just if people, obviously some people know me and others don't, I hate driving. I'm a bad passenger, okay? I don't like getting lost at all, and I don't like navigating, and I don't like not knowing where I'm going. So what could go wrong, right?
Sure.
So, however, I did a fair bit of research into the Lap of Tasmania, and yes,
Can I just say,
you can.
Everything you said then was accurate.
I didn't put in some of the things I normally say when I talk about driving and the driver, so be thankful that I'm being kind.
Yeah. Well, I think the audience is plus 15. It's a parental guidance.
Anyway, but I'm trying to paint a picture of. This is not something I normally do, a road trip, but I believe there's no other way that you can see Tasmania properly. And what we decided to do was take some advice from, there's a really good website called The Lap of Tasmania. And I've got one of my best friends lives in Tasmania and has done for quite a long time, and some advice from her and her husband. And we also know that we don't want to travel more than about 2 to 3 hours a day, and and we need to stop along the way. So we put all that together, and I think we came up with a really good plan.
Compromise.
Well, you'd have to say it's a good plan though, the way we did it. Sure. So this is the first part of that road trip. He's been a-hole. This is the first part of that road trip where we go from Hobart. We pick up our car, and that's the first part of panic because we've got to get to Hobart. And if you know Hobart, it's like a big country town. It's not that difficult. Anyway, and we head off, and our final destination, which we will take you to today, is Strahan. But on the way, we have
No.
Yeah.
Lake St Clair is our first day.
Oh,
that's
that is
our first stop over.
That is our first stop. At the end of this podcast is Strahan, I'm sorry. Yes. So we're going from Hobart to Lake St Clair to Strahan.
Correct.
Right. But our first stop actually was at 32 kilometres out of Hobart because, that's as far as we got.
Yeah, because we were both dying for a coffee, really.
And at a little town called New Norfolk, and it's got about 6,500 people. It's bigger than the other place. I know, bigger than the other place, probably because it's not that far from Hobart, and it's right on the Derwent River, and it's on, and the reason we could find it easily is because it was on the Lyell Highway.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's
spelled Lyell.
Okay, Lyell, and that's so that's the highway we follow on the first part of our road trip. So we stopped at New Norfolk. I kept calling it Newfound, didn't I? Got it wrong.
Yeah.
New Norfolk for morning tea, and we're there with at a bakery, getting coffee and something to eat. And there's a whole group of motorbike riders.
Correct.
Like probably more middle-aged than not, and a whole range of the fancy bikes. I don't know, the Ducatis and the Harleys and stuff.
Yeah.
But some really fancy-looking bikes, yeah.
Yeah,
and
sure.
They headed off. They'd obviously got there before us. They had their morning tea, and they headed off before us. And so we had our morning tea, and off we headed to our next stop. But on the way, it's a very windy road. Yes, like very windy. But because my my dislike of driving and heights and windy roads just add to the fun and games. You were very, very good and just took it easy and paced ourselves, which is nice. However,
I certainly wasn't going to get any speeding fines.
No, you weren't. So we couldn't really speed on that windy road anyway, I wouldn't have thought. So, but there's another sort of stop. I think it was like a power station or something, and like maybe another 30, 40 k's out of New Norfolk, where all the bikes had stopped again. So we sort of playing leapfrog with this group of bike riders. So we head off, and they're still there. And within, 2 or 3 minutes, we're being overtaken by, bike after bike after bike. Some of them, it's overtaking us on hills, on curves. And, I know that I am a panicker. However, even you were saying, someone's going to get hurt here. This is dangerous.
Yeah.
It was actually really quite scary. I mean, even though we have said on this road trip, sometimes you don't see a car in front of you or behind you. You just, the road is windy and it is steep and you don't know what's coming. So this is continuing on for a while. I know I'm going on with this story a bit, but it's leading up to another story. And we come around a corner and there is a guy sprawled out on the road next to a bike, and they're all pulled up around him, and they've sort of called us through. We were probably one of the first on the scene, but and we were just like, well, we can't do anything to help. They're all there. But it wasn't a surprise that he'd had that accident.
Yeah, it was an accident waiting to happen, for sure.
So after that, like if that wasn't enough to sort of, make you be careful, we were. But we then stopped at a place called the Wall is what it's known for short, but it's the Wall.
The Wall in the Wilderness. Now,
this is a place in Tasmania that's well known to locals, and they always tell you to go there. And it's a museum, a wooden sort of display museum. Now, you don't see a lot of pictures because you can't take pictures of it. So I did manage to get a few little pictures outside, which are on our website. But it is spectacular, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a 100 meters sculpture by Greg Duncan.
Yeah.
The entry is $13.
Right.
Now you do have to pre-book.
Yes.
So, because they only let a certain amount of people in. Look, the actual area itself, it's got a bar, restaurant, and it's the open fire. Look, it's actually beautiful.
So it's 100 meters in length, 3 meters high.
Yeah.
A hue and pine. There are other woods in it, but mostly hue and pine.
Hue and pine, yeah.
Sculptured of the history of.
Yeah, the Central Highlands of Tasmania. Yeah.
And it's hard to describe, but there's the horses and the farmers and the farm animals and the bullock drays, and this massive big. You imagine 100 meters.
Yeah, 100 meters. Yeah, and it's different panels, and
Yeah, it's stretched over
the
that.
detail.
The detail,
is unbelievable.
Yeah,
so it is beautiful, but the fact that you can't take photos in there, which is a bit weird, we found. I think I've read some reviews on it that people have complained about that, but the staff then say, well, there are books that you can buy.
Yeah, so they're trying to sell a book.
They're trying to sell the books, but I think if they let people take photos, and I think that'd probably work better as a marketing ploy than actually trying to sell the books.
Because you'd want to go and have a look then, because it's really hard to know what to get in, because but it's worth going. And and the reason I sort of was telling that motorbike story, because when we were lined up to go, well, not really lined up, but at the front going in, there were two other motorbike riders that were there in front of us on much smaller bikes, and they were talking about they'd seen the accident as well, and actually I don't think they'd seen the accident, but they'd been overtaken by these bikes, and they were commenting on how dangerous it was. And then we said, well, one of them's now lying on the road over there, and they weren't surprised either at that, were they? No. There are some, it's a big car park, it's a lovely long building, as you said. You can have a glass of wine there, and there's this so it goes around 100 meters, this wall, and it's got panels in the middle, and it's got little individual wooden sculptures in there as well. So it is a stunning place to stop and
definitely worthwhile. And look, if you're going to do a day trip from Hobart, it's only 122k.
Right. Yeah. On that windy road, but sure, you could do it, and then you'd go on to the next stop, which is what we did.
Yeah.
To the Derwent Bridge Hotel.
I think we go to the falls there, or
no, Derwent Bridge Hotel.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we another place that people tell you to go is the Derwent Bridge Hotel, which we stopped at. It's a lovely old-fashioned pub with accommodation, and we stopped there for lunch because we'd been driving for long enough. And we're on our way to Lake St Clair, and Derwent Bridge is right there at the at the entrance to the Lake St Clair National Park. But what a nice pub, and they've got a huge menu.
Yeah, huge menu, huge open fire. It's what you'd expect at a
country pub.
A country pub, yeah, exactly.
But the atmosphere's got dark timber, and outside there's lots of those lush sort of trying to think of the name of the plants, tree ferns, outside in the window. And there was an open fire, not that we really needed it, but that was there. And they have accommodation there as well, don't they?
Yeah, they have accommodation. I had a quick look. Yeah. High season is from the 1st of December to the 30th of April. A double ensuite is $175 per night. That's bed and breakfast, so that includes breakfast.
That's cool.
Look, it was clean. The food we had was great. Yep. So well worth a call in for lunch.
Yeah, nice stop for lunch. After a lovely lunch and quite a eventful morning, we head off to our accommodation at Lake St Clair.
Yeah, we should explain the eventful morning also. When we were having lunch, we could hear the helicopters coming to get the guy that had the accident. So
they landed on the road not far from the Derwent Bridge Hotel. Because
that was the best location for it to do the pickup, because we'd heard the ambulance and then we heard the helicopters. So hopefully he ended up okay.
So Lake St Clair, you want to tell us a bit about because it's a beautiful national park. It's one of the bigger national parks, and we're at the bottom end of it, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to read this.
Okay.
Lake St Clair is a natural freshwater lake. The lake forms the southern end of the Cradle Mountain Lake St Clair National Park. It is an area of approximately 45 square kilometres and a maximum depth of 215 metres, making it Australia's deepest lake.
That's the actual lake, is that size? Yeah.
So for our overseas visitors, that's about 705 feet. Right. The Cradle Mountain Lake St Clair area was decreed a scenic reserve in 1922,
right,
a wildlife reserve in 1927, a national park in 1947, and a World Heritage Area from 1982. Now, it was carved out by ice during several glaciers over the last 2 million years.
It's Australia's deepest lake in a wilderness.
Correct. Yeah, look, it is beautiful.
Yes.
The Lake St Clair is also the end point of the famous overland track, which runs from Cradle Mountain in the north to Cynthia Bay on the southern shore of the Lake St Clair.
We're going to tell you about Cradle Mountain in another episode and that walk, but that's quite a popular walk, that one, isn't it?
Yeah. It takes about 6 days.
Yeah. So the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area, which is all over Tasmania, has a 60 great short walks. So all over Tasmania, and a lot of them are in this area. And I'm going to put a link to that in our show notes, because it's a fabulous website. And some people don't want to do a 6-day walk. Some just want to do a couple of hours, which is more our style. And that has them all listed there. But so they have a range of short and long tracks, and this is Lake St Clair, and you can actually just meander around them. You don't have to climb up mountains and things. And we were only there one night, so we did a couple of these sort of short, meandering sort of walks. But you go through these ancient rainforests, and you cross over to little alpine lakes, and you can also, there's rivers there. I remember the one we did was called Waters Meets. And it's
that's right. I remember. Yeah,
where the two rivers come together.
Yeah, and it was beautiful.
And there's a bridge that goes across that, and that was spectacular. And that's sort of inland from the actual Lake St Clair itself. But you can also, there's lots of animals down here. Like there's the Bennett's wallaby, the paddy melons, wombats, echidnas, even quolls, and if you're lucky, you might see some platypus as well. There's actually a walk on the area where they've got these shields up that you can look through down onto a little cove where platypus are often seen. So so lots of wildlife there as well. We did another walk after that Waters Meets, where we sort of went over onto the lake, or the beaches areas they call it, and walked back along that way. So, and that was beautiful as well. So we've gone through this wild sort of landscape, and the tracks are really good. A lot of them are boardwalks, and they've got that chicken wire on top, and that's probably more so for winter when there's snow around, to stop the slipping on that. So you're not sort of walking over tree roots and things like that. So that in this particular walk, which was great. But a couple of the popular walks in Lake St Clair, there's the Echo Point walk, which is 11 kilometres, and you walk there, and then there's a ferry that brings you back.
That's right, yeah.
And that's about a grade 3 walk, so need a medium sort of level of fitness for that. Then the Franklin Beaches, which is what we saw, that's about a 6 kilometre return, so 2 hours, and it's only like a grade 2, so pretty flat, pretty easy walk. And then as part of it, we also did the 45-minute walk to Waters Meet, which is 4.7 kilometres, and another grade 2, which is pretty simple. And that one took us past Platypus Bay that I talked about. We didn't see any that day. So, but one of the big ones from there, from Lake St Clair, which a lot of people go for, is the challenging 7-hour, around the 7-hour Mount Rufus one, which is 19 kilometres, which is pretty challenging. A grade 4 they call that one, but the people who do it say it's absolutely worth it for the breathtaking views there. But one thing that you did mention earlier, not on the podcast, but to me, was you have to have a pass.
A national park pass.
Yes, and at Lake St Clair, there's like a big tourist information building as part of the Lake St Clair Lodge accommodation. It's one, and you can go there, obviously, when you're visiting through the day to get your park pass, and there's outdoor tables, and you can have drinks and meals there. You don't have to stay there. It's like a cafe sort of restaurant area.
So that park pass, that's hard to say.
It is, isn't it?
That entitles you to go to all the parks.
Yeah, you can buy an
on.
Yeah, you can buy that all park pass.
Yeah, sure. And we probably should have looked at.
And I think it's a 12-month pass. Actually.
Yeah, it was. But I can't remember how much it
wasn't
cost.
Expensive, but it's
But you do need it, so don't think that you're going to be able to bluff your way through.
Just get it,
because people do ask for it. So
just get it. Now we decided we'd start our road trip with a bit of a spoil. I thought we'll get a lovely. They're not villas, but like it was like a
cabin.
It
was like a cabin.
Yeah, but I paid for a one with the water view, a studio apartment with the on the lake with the water view, to start our road trip. To celebrate that I'm going to be brave, and we're going to I'm going to nail this road trip stuff. And we have to say, look, Lake St Clair, the park, the area, absolutely pristine, stunning, beautiful. I'd go back there in a heartbeat.
I totally agree.
Absolutely loved it. It's just spectacular.
Yep.
The accommodation, now we don't like to bag things out because that's not what our podcast is about. However, we were very disappointed. The accommodation itself was basic, okay.
Yeah.
Lakeview, if you walk down the ramp, across the road past another villa onto the edge of the lake, you'd see it. Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing that was really disappointing was the food. Now, it was a time where there wasn't a lot of staff around, but it included breakfast, and we couldn't eat it. We didn't.
Look, the price was $380 a night, which included breakfast.
Yeah, so it's not cheap.
Look, the bar itself,
a buffet breakfast.
Yeah, buffet breakfast.
Yeah.
The bar itself, the Trapper and Miggin's bar. Look, it had a pretty good wine list.
Yeah,
like
nice atmosphere.
Nice atmosphere. There was also some alfresco dining outside.
Yep.
But I tell you what, even we were there in February, and it was still cold. So
I remember that.
Yeah, we did. We had a drink outside when we came back from the walk, and then we decided we're going to have dinner, and it was a very, very restricted menu.
Yeah, well, it was like a Monday night or something, and they only had like their cafe menu, which was pizza and something else.
Anyway, it was pretty. Yeah,
but the wine was nice.
Yeah, the wine was good,
yes.
and I think it was we had a Joseph Cromie.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. The food was below average.
Yeah.
But anyway, we thought, oh, well, that's the way it goes. So anyway, the next morning we came, as we said, it was a B&B, so it was breakfast included. It was a buffet breakfast.
Yes.
I walked in and looked at it, and like, I'm pretty laid back. I pretty, and coming from the hospitality industry, I sort of understand sometimes things go wrong, but I wasn't even prepared to have a cup of coffee after I looked at the breakfast buffet. I said to Leanne, they would have to try to make it look that bad.
Anyway, that's enough bagging out.
Anyway, but then there's other places to stay. There's the Pump House.
Yeah, that's pretty luxury.
That's sort of a luxury place, and it looked beautiful.
Or the Derwent Bridge Hotel, as we said.
Yeah, the Derwent Bridge Hotel,
which is a 5-minute drive, 10-minute drive.
Yeah, but just that Pump House, if you do decide to go and have the Pump House, I think it's a 3-night minimum over the weekend and 2-night minimum during the week. But they look spectacular, and there's also camping.
Yeah, you can camp there. That's for sure. Now, just before we leave Lake St Clair, I did get up early before breakfast. Yeah,
you did,
because I wanted to get some photos of the lake early in the morning, and I'm so glad I did. And go to our website at beachtravelwine.com. Or Instagram at Beach Travel Wine, and up the top on the story highlights, Tasmania's right at the front there, to see the lake first thing of the morning. And there was a bit of a fog, so the lake's sort of crystal and like glass, and the sky's, quite blue. It's still early, but there's a fog, and it's not across all the lake. There's some mountains sticking up on the other side, and then as I'm standing there taking photos and doing some filming, these 2 people on kayaks just start paddling by, and you couldn't hear, like, it was just, all you could hear was the birds. It was like you're in the middle of, I was watching something that no one else had seen. It was absolutely spectacular. And
you risked life and limb to take that
Well,
photo.
I did. I was just about to say, and I'm there enjoying this beautiful, serene moment, psyching myself up for the day trip ahead of me, with, the 2.5-hour drive. And I've got, and it is cold, and I've got thongs on, and I look down and my feet start to burn and sting because I'm standing on top of an ant's nest.
Yeah. And folks, I can't tell you, when Leanne came back after taking those photos, the language of her description of what just happened to her, she wasn't a happy camper.
I took.
Pardon the pun.
Thank you. I took, like one for the team, and did what I had to do to get those early morning shots, and it was definitely worth it, wasn't it?
The photos?
Yes.
Highly recommend you check them out.
So after my, disaster. Yeah, my feet were stinging. Anyway, doesn't matter. We couldn't have breakfast, but we did have some tea in our room. So we had a cup of tea, packed up, and headed off on our way to through Queenstown to Strahan. And this was quite a particularly windy area of the trip. But our friend John said to us, you need to stop outside on your way to a little place. It's just off the main road. You can't miss it, called Nelson Falls. And so, in true road tripping style, we decided we would do that.
Yeah, we saw the sign.
Yeah.
Look, it's only a short walk from the Lyle Highway.
So you pull in off the highway, and there's a car park there, and then it's only not far, is it?
Yeah, it's about 1.4 round trip. 1.4K.
Along a lovely flat track.
Yeah, and it's a flat track, and it's also along alongside the river there. Yeah, and it's beautiful.
And you're in the rainforest.
One may even say a babbling brook. may one say that?
Is that what they call you? A babbling what?
Yeah. Look, so you just walk
all the way along this track, and it's along, as you said, the river, which has like the rocks, so you can hear the water, and there's moss covered logs, and there's tree ferns, and there's little signs along the way to explain all this stuff.
Yeah, it features sassafras, myrtle, and a variety of ferns.
That's beautiful.
Gives hints of the high rainfall in this area.
Yeah,
it gives hints.
Right.
All right. Leanne said to me, "You can't say that." I said, "Yes, I can." And along the boardwalk to Nelson Falls, you will come across an interpretation panels highlighting the ancient plants you see along the way.
Yeah, and they're really interesting.
Many of the species of these cool temperature rainforests are only suited to the cool, moist conditions of places such as the Nelson Valley.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And so you walk along. So just to walk along this, track along the river, looking at these signs is beautiful, but you can hear the waterfall the whole way, can't you? So, and there's like a wooden platform that you can walk onto, and there it is. It's not the highest one. It's about 40 meters or something, isn't it?
Yeah, 30 meters, 98 feet.
Yeah. So, but it's quite wide, so it's not just like one little trickle, it's from the top, it comes all the way down. Like it's just beautiful. We were so glad that we were told to go there. Otherwise we might have just kept going, because I'm one of those people like, let's just get where we're going.
I think the beauty of it is it's so close to the highway. It's not a long walk.
Yeah.
And when you get there, it's just, as you said, the actual falls are quite wide.
Yeah.
And I was blown away.
Yeah,
I thought it was really, really impressive.
Really nice.
And the actual rainforest and the moss, and you don't. So it just pops out of nowhere.
Yeah. And so that's, once again, there's on the website beachtravelwine.com, I've put some photos of the Nelson waterfalls, and also on our Instagram. It's beautiful. I've done a video of that.
Yeah, just be aware you've got to, if you do decide to stop, visit or stop, there's not a great deal of major signage to say that it's coming up or whatever. It's just a sign, Nelson Falls.
I think there are some toilets though, because Quick Wee Lee needed to use those.
Sure.
All right, so that was a lovely start to our day after my amp bites and shitty breakfast. We it made up for it in spades, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it was well worth it.
Well worth it. So then we hop back in the car and we head to Strahan. Now this day was another about a 2.5 hour drive. It's if you take your time like we did, and you end up at the water on the western side of Tasmania, at a little town called Strahan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's well known because that's where you go out on to the Gordon Franklin River, national park sort of area, which is stunning. But tell us a little bit about Strahan.
Well, we did drive through Queenstown, remember?
Oh, we did, yeah, true.
Yeah, okay.
We didn't.
So the Queenstown is an old mining town. Yes. So you sort of drive up and you come over the top of this hill.
And all of a sudden the lush green mountains turn to desolate hills.
Yeah, it was so contrast.
Yeah.
But it was an old gold mining town.
Yeah.
Now
It was a Lyle or something, wasn't
yes, it was the Mount Lyell Gold Mining Company.
Yes.
Was formed in 1889, but funnily enough, it mainly mined copper. But anyway, that's the way it was. Look, the big thing there is there's a railway station there, which
Yes.
is
It's the West Coast Railway, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a 5-hour journey on board a steam train departing Queenstown and journeying deep into Tasmania's western wilderness and ancient rainforest. Rainforest, that's it. He putting shit on me. Yeah, it's a rainforest. 3 station stops along the journey, providing the opportunity to pan for gold, watch the train be re-watered from above the track, and take a short walk through the rainforest. Look,
so it's a reconstruction of the Mount Lyell Mining and Railway Company.
Yeah, it goes for about 35K.
Yeah. And
adults $110.
Yeah.
And kids 55.
It's the original locomotives operating today. Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that'd be. Look, we didn't do it because
it wasn't operating.
That particular day, but we would have done it.
Yeah.
I reckon 5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, for that price, I reckon it's pretty good value.
And it comes out down, which another place we're going to tell you about in a little while. The Regatta Hotel area at the Regatta Point, I think it's called, in Strahan, which is where it goes down to.
Okay, so Strahan.
Yes.
We're there. We've arrived, and it's a population of about 650 people.
Hang on, before you do that, the thing that was really nice is once we got to our accommodation was around the other side of the lake, and it was about half the price of what we'd paid in Lake St Clair.
Oh,
less
a third.
Yeah, and even though it wasn't new, it was fabulous. The people were lovely. They had a welcome basket, and there was a laundry we could use, and we had beautiful views over the water and the township of Strahan. Yeah, it was called Gateway to the Gordon, and it was fabulous. Sorry, go on. Tell me about Strahan.
Okay, so it's a small town.
Yeah.
And former port of the west coast of Tasmania. Strahan's harbour and Rispy Cove form part of the northeast end of the Long Bay on the northern end of the Macquarie Harbour. Historically, Strahan has been a port to a small fishing fleet that braves the west coast conditions and Hell's Gate.
Yeah, we're going to tell them about that in a minute, aren't we?
Yeah, so
it's a pretty little town, isn't it, Strahan?
It's beautiful.
And it's sort of on the edge of a bay. So where we were was on one side, and it was about a kilometre walk, beautiful path all the way around to the other side, right?
Yeah.
And so when we got there and we dumped our stuff, we decided we would walk around to the other side to look at where the cruises go out from. Yes.
Yes.
And we went to the Gordon River Cruise Terminal, if that's what you want to call it, where the camera was. Yeah. And we decided that we were going to book a tour, and we were going to do it the next day. And they said, well, we've got a sunset cruise leaving in an hour or a couple of hours. Do you want to do that? And we thought, and that includes dinner. I'm like, well, hello, that'd be nice, didn't we?
Está
bien. So that's what we did. So we hop on the big catamaran right there in Strahan, in Macquarie Harbour, and we are heading out to the edge of the Macquarie Harbour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so basically it's the Franklin Gordon River Cruise. It's $144 per person. It's a 6-hour tour, and that includes a buffet.
The sunset one is the
sunset, dinner, and it also obviously does lunch. Look, it's really impressive. The tour takes place aboard the Spirit of the Wild catamaran, specifically designed to travel smoothly on the Gordon River, fitted with a unique hybrid propulsion system.
Yeah. So what happens is, you just go along normally on the catamaran
diesel,
and out on the harbour, and you look at the Hell's Gates and all that stuff, which you can tell us about. And then the minute you enter the national park, they put the other engine on or turn the diesel off, and you can't hear
electric.
a thing. Yeah, and you're just gliding through this ancient national park, which was it was amazing, wasn't it?
So you pass by Hell's Gate.
Yeah.
A narrow opening where the Southern Ocean meets Macquarie Harbour. It's just 240 feet or 80 metres gap. Then head across the harbour, making your way to the lower reaches of the Gordon River as you pass by the salmon and
the fish farms.
Basically the trout and salmon farms and the waterfront rainforest landscape. Look, it's that whole part of it. Like, I was really taken back by how beautiful it was.
Like
there's commentary. Yeah, there's a commentary.
And I've got pictures of those hell gates, and I've got videos of that as well. So the pictures are on the website, and the videos are on the story highlights on our Instagram. Really suggest you go and have a look at those.
Yeah, and you've got the lighthouses there. They're only small lighthouses, but at each side of the Hell's Gate. So, and you could understand why it was called Hell's Gate, obviously, because it's just that narrow entry from, and the Southern Ocean.
You can imagine how
can be like horrific. So that was really good.
And the commentary was interesting as well.
Yeah. And then you disembark at Sarah Island.
Yeah, that's a bit later though, don't you? Okay.
Well, we've sort of gone through the farms. We've gone.
Okay. So that's at sunset. We get off at Sarah Island.
We disembark at Sarah Island, a former penal colony, and watch a theatrical presentation to learn about the history, including how the island was an important Australian shipyard where the boats were built by the convicts. Now, the actual theatrical presentation, like, I was so surprised. It was really, really good. And then they talk about the boat building and all that sort of thing.
They show where they're built, and you can see that. And they also show where the bank was and the city was, and you can wander around there. And the sun was just setting, and it was quite eerie being out there on that island at that time of night.
And when you consider the history, but also you could also see not far from that island, there was another very small island that held the female convicts.
Oh.
Now, you got to think to yourself, no wonder they built their boats quite quickly sometimes.
Oh, stop it.
I'm thinking, that was in the commentary. Oh, you probably didn't notice that. That's the sort of thing I would notice, that maybe they were so good at boat building that there was an alternative reason for it. But look, Sarah Island, I think it's only about 13 hectares. It's not big.
I'd never heard of it, so it was very interesting to me.
But you walk all the way around it, and it was very informative, and the commentary was excellent.
Before the sun goes down, though, you do, as we said, start. When cruising around the Gordon River area, and they tell you, there's about some of the ancient trees that you can see, and there's just this one little spot, because you're not supposed to, tread on some of the places, apparently. There's this one spot that they pull a boat in, and it's just got this little boardwalk that you go through, and actually in the ancient rainforest. It was pretty impressive, that whole area. It's pristine, and even though Lyle's not a tree hugger, I think you would hug a tree there, because you can't help but be blown away at the beauty of nature there, can you?
Oh, look, for several years, Strahan became the focus of a conservation campaign.
It did,
opposed to the proposed Franklin Below Gordon Dam.
Yeah.
That was huge when that went. Like, that was daily news item number one for a long, long time. So it was the local, and that's actually where the Green Party, which was the first environmental party in the world. That's what that all was formed because of. And look, I said to Leon after it, I said, look, it's not normally my go, but I'm so pleased that they did what they did to basically keep this pristine, and I mean pristine environment,
like it has been for thousands and thousands of years. I think that's the kicker. Like, once you start, playing with that, it'll never be the same again.
Well, I think you can turn around and there's so much to love about Tasmania, but to me, the biggest thing to love about Tasmania is pristine.
Well, and you did mention in our earlier podcast about talking about Hobart and just Tasmania in general, like so much of Tasmania is protected, whether it's national park or what places, and this western south sort of western part of Tasmania is sort of the wild, isn't it?
Yeah. It's wilderness.
So you really want to keep that nice. So that was our sunset tour. We cruised back to town and easy walk back around where we got off back to our beautiful place at the gateway to Gordon.
Yeah, we had a fabulous view from where we were.
Yeah, and then so the next morning we decide we'll do another little walk and just exploring Strahan, because the first day we'd done that, and so we did a walk around the lake again, and we came across a little track to another waterfall called Hobart Falls, and that was pretty cute. I thought, like it's like not far in, like it's I think about a kilometre walk in and back, and just through some really beautiful tall trees, and like it's pretty I don't know, like there's rainforest and stuff too, and a little creek where you can see platypus. We didn't, once again, but we were probably talking too loud, and but yeah, that was a surprise. That's right in the centre of Strahan.
Yeah, and I can remember that morning was a really, really nice morning.
Yeah,
the weather, with the sun was out. It was pretty nice.
Good. And then we obviously, walk into town to find a nice coffee, and there's just up from the
the terminal.
Thank you. That's the word. Is the Morrison's Hue and Pine sawmill. Yeah, and that's sort of been family owned for years, and it's been running since the 1940s, or been open daily since the 1940s. And it's open every day during tourist season, and it's still operating, as I said. And you can buy. I've got friends that live downstairs from us that have been there and bought like Hue and Pine bowls and things. Just beautiful. Quality, and that old timber, and just nice. And then there's a show.
Is that actually in Trevor?
Yeah,
place?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then there's a show, isn't it?
Yes. The Round Earth Theatre Company. Now, these are the guys that actually do the theatrical presentation on Sarah Island.
Yes.
Okay. They also conduct explanatory tours of Sarah Island, and also has produced a daily reenactment play about Sarah Island, the ship that never was. So let me repeat that. The play is called The Ship That Never Was,
and this is a daily play that's been going,
which has exceeded 5,000 performances.
Yes,
and is Australia's longest running play.
Right, and that's right there on near the Hewan the Hewan sawmill.
Yeah. Very close.
Very close to that indeed. So we had a lovely day just exploring around the little town area, and it's so quaint, and it's got pretty little houses, and the bank building's nice, and the tree, there's some beautiful flowering trees and things. It's pretty, it's quaint, just lovely. I loved it. And we then decided we were going to go down to Regatta Point Hotel, which is right around the other side, closer to where our accommodation was, for dinner. And it's a pretty basic sort of pub around there, and they do accommodation there as well at the Regatta Point Hotel. But we went in and had a look a bit earlier in the afternoon, and
because we before that we actually had a sandwich at the railway station. Remember?
Okay, we did. And that's where the locomotives were. Some on the tracks there.
Yeah, the steam trains. Yeah. And I think we must have spoken to someone there, and because we were aware that
someone recommended, didn't they, that we go to the Regatta Hotel and try the ocean trout.
Now,
so we went up
straight off their website, located 50 metres from the water's edge.
Yes.
Offers 180 degrees panoramic water views of Strahan and the harbour.
Yes.
And is the perfect location to watch Strahan's spectacular sunset. Now, all that's true.
All that is. In fact, I think they've underestimated it. But can I just say,
Sure.
We went in.
You were in charge.
Thank you. So what we did was we were recommended the ocean trout, and they said they only get so much in, so you need to go and book and say you want the ocean trout. So
That's
we
correct.
went up and we said, we want the ocean trout. Can we book for dinner? And we could only get in early. I think it was like 5:30 or something because, and they said that's probably good anyway because if they run out of ocean trout, they run out whether you book it or not.
Yeah, which was weird.
And so, we rock up for dinner and the ocean trout was absolutely spectacular. It was
unbelievable. And unbelievable quality and unbelievable price. It was $25.
Yeah, for this.
Just crazy. But the whole menu, oysters, $27 a dozen.
Yeah, whoever does that. Nobody.
I fill it $29. It was just lamb chops, $20. Chicken parma, $19. But the ocean trout, what do they call it? The Macquarie Harbour ocean trout.
They catch it that day, and
if you go to Strahan, you've got to have it.
Yeah, it's not the decor's nothing to rave about. The chairs and tables, what you'd expect in a country sort of pub, but the views were spectacular. The sunset was amazing, and the food was to die for.
Sure.
Yeah, that's still one of our favourite meals. In Tasmania.
I think that was the first meal we had oysters.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. You can't go past them, can you? Yeah. So that was great. So yeah, that was our few days in Strahan. So we recommended it for sure. So we then, I've got a bit of a surprise to tell you about. Sorry, we just interrupted our transmission there because Lyle needed to cough.
Yeah, I had a little coughing fit. Sorry, folks.
That's as technical. What is the word? Technical as we get. We turn it off and start again.
Sure.
So before we finished, and Lyle had his little, coughing fit, I want to tell you about something really surprising about Strahan, and I wanted to leave it till nearly the end because I thought it was worth sharing. So Strahan holds the world water ski record, right? Remember we saw a picture of that?
We did.
And this happened on the 27th of January, 2012.
Right.
However, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes because it has all this information there, and this is fascinating to me. This was 25 years in that, people were dreaming about doing it. It was 6 years in the planning. They had 10 attempts over 4 years to do it. Yeah. And
I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
right. And so the link in the show notes will take you to the website, which has a video. It shows some of the attempts. It shows how they planned it and everything. Really, it's fascinating. And for the world record, they started with 154 skiers and 145 finished. And that was the record. So not all of them finished it. And there's a picture of it on the show notes, but there's a better picture on the link in the show notes.
Say that again. There was how many
they started with 154.
Okay.
And I don't know the distance that they had to go, but by the time they got to the end, there was 145 left. So 9 of them obviously fell off or didn't make it.
So that's not bad. Attrition rate.
Yeah, right. But the picture of this is it looks like one of those big catamarans that we went out on, massive big boat.
Yeah, yeah.
And behind it, you can just see this whole line of people and your water skiers, and then the water behind them all ripply. Like it's I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, if there's only 650 odd people, in the total population, that's a fair call. That's impressive.
Yeah, but there will be a link. As I said, I've put the photo in. We took a photo of there's like a shelter, and that's the only thing I could find in town that suggested that this had happened, right?
Yeah.
So I took a photo of that, and in the show notes, I'm going to put the link on that photo, so it will take you to and it's got on this little website, it's got YouTube videos of it and explanations and when they did the other attempts and things. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm going to have a look at that.
Yeah, I know. See, I came up with a surprising fact this time, didn't I?
Okay, fair enough.
All right, folks, this has been our first of our Lap of Tasmania episodes. And as I said, we started in Hobart, and first night was in Lake St Clair, which is about a 2.5-hour drive for us, with a few stops along the way. And then we went from Lake St Clair to Strahan, which is about another 2.5 hours, and with like the Nelson Fall, which is one of our favourite places in Tasmania, still along the way. So it's both very easy drives to do, even though they're windy if you take your time, and fascinating landscape, or not just fascinating, spectacular landscape, and you've gone from the capital of Hobart to the wild west of Tasmania,
Sure.
in this first episode. So we hope you've enjoyed that, and we're
just be aware, and
Yes.
John told us this,
Yes.
is that just because it says that's only 200k on the map, just be aware. So, for instance, one of the trips we did was 180 kilometres, and it took us 2.5 hours. Now, 180 kilometres normally wouldn't take that long,
No.
but the roads are very windy. So
Yeah.
just be aware when you're planning your trip, just add another half hour on.
Plus, at least.
To make sure you...
Especially in these windy roads.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. So where was your favourite place to have a glass of wine?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Oh, well, I wouldn't say... I'd like to say Lake St Clair, because that's where we probably first discovered Joseph Cromie, although I think we did that earlier. But I was let down a bit there.
That was at Richmond, actually. We had our first Joseph Cromie.
I would have to say probably on the Gordon River cruise, watching the sunset up, as we're heading back into...
Yeah, I would probably agree.
But
however,
I think you're going to the Regatta Hotel, aren't you? No.
No, you know what?
What?
I'm going to pull one out. I was going to say it on my ass, but no, I'm not allowed to say that.
No,
but
you're not.
I would say on the balcony of the accommodation place that we stayed.
The gateway to Gordon.
Gordon, because the views over the Macquarie Harbour were absolutely beautiful.
They were indeed.
And, so for something different, just sitting on the balcony there.
Yeah.
In the accommodation, and it was such a nice place, and they made us feel so welcome.
And what I'll do is I'll put a link to the Gateway to Gordon accommodation in our show notes as well, because I'd certainly recommend it, just because of it's not modern, but it's great position, and they were just so nice, and it was a lovely spot. Wasn't it?
Country hospitality.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. I think you've done very well there.
But there was nothing wrong with the Regatta Hotel either.
No, that was pretty nice over the ocean trout. So stay listening to our next episode, where we head off to Cradle Mountain. So look forward to telling you all about that in our next episode. So until then, it's farewell from me, and
hasta luego from me.